interest in my page. I mean, really, mine is just sharing my experience as a fan. I have very unique perspective being a fan for over 20 years and attending games, developing relationships with former players, collecting in the depth and scope that I've have kind of is my way to keep connected with the game. And, I've always just kind of kept my personal collection to myself. I really wasn't really big on social media. Around 3 or 4 years ago, my wife was just like, hey, it may be fun for other fans to kind of enjoy and see all these awesome parts of history that
Yeah.
those fans lived, right? Attending games, watching it with family, um, going back to even listening on the radio for older time fans. And, she suggested that, hey, you should start an Instagram page. You should post some of this content, tag some of the people. And, it was awesome because it added like a human element to the collecting. And, as a fan yourself, you see things in the lens of like your fanhood and your experience and seeing it through others and how important like these games and players and moments and memories are to others was really fun. And what I actually noticed, which was really neat, is like there's those group of players, Mark, that just missed the social media cutoff,
Yeah.
right? Those guys who played in 2014, 2015, 2017, and then even back 2009, 7, 8. And they're very appreciative, right? When you post like a candid picture that you took at a game of them on the sidelines, or the jersey they wore in this important game, or a helmet, or I even have other items over the years. So it kind of brings them back to feeling kind of appreciated. And they all played a big role in Penn State's history, but they just missed out on that kind of big social media buzz. Where like the backup running back for Penn State has 20,000 Instagram followers, but an all Big Ten receiver like Derek Moy, who was phenomenal for us,
Yep.
he may have like a couple thousand. So, um, it's the timing, changes kind of everything. But there's, a lot of players that obviously contribute to the history of where we are right now.
Yeah, that's what I find so interesting about your page. I mean, I've been following I've been following you for a while. I see your stuff, and you get a lot of interesting video or pictures and videos, and I mean, you're at everything. I mean, I've seen posts from the USC kickoff game from 2001. I mean,
Yeah.
you pretty much go to everything, it seems.
Yeah, so a lot of the major games I go to, I'm a big fan of getting like really good seats. And I like, a lot of the current pages cover just what's going on, right? Like just what happened in the Blue White game or what's trending on the portal. But Penn State has like a full, deep, rich history. And so I like to kind of mix it up on my page. So like a lot of those pictures that I took, which was so crazy in the kickoff classic versus USC in the Maryland versus USC in the Meadowlands, and was that 2000, 2001? Those are all just, kind of pictures that I went and got developed at CVS back in the day. That just, you had the stacks of those pictures and you're pulling them out. And, my mom was fortunate enough to keep them and give them to me when I moved out years ago. And, it's kind of going through those old photo albums, and they didn't take as candid pictures. And, I had an awesome picture of Tony Johnson and Larry Johnson like warming up in the end zone, and that was Tony's first game at Penn State playing with Larry. And they also went on to have just a tremendous career. I have a great picture of like Jeremiah Davis. He was coming out, and that was like his first game in the end zone warming up, and like Joe Paterno on the sidelines. And, a lot of those, games where I was just like, wow, these are awesome. And they didn't take as many photos and they didn't publish them back then. So, kind of respecting that history, and then, posting stuff as candid as, the players interacting after, Vanover's big interception in the Blue White game, and giving fans that candid look who are just, watching the game. And, it's a cool perspective just to share that, going back 20 years to last weekend.
Yeah, so you're you reside in Hawaii. Uh, do you want to give people your name? I didn't even know your name until you sent me your email. So I don't know if you want to tell
Yeah.
people that. But
Yeah. So Yeah, no, my name's Matt. You can come up and say hi to me. I'm a huge fan. My big thing is, like I said, I don't do this for any commercial interest. It's just to share my passion with other fans and kind of get them excited about football and network in a positive way. Social media for sports, it's there's so much like negativity, and I'm trying to have my page like just celebrating the history, networking with fans, saying, hey, I saw that brought up a great memory. I was at that game with my dad, or we were at that game with my family, and that jersey the player wore that game that brought me back, or that picture that I remember tailgating with my parents, or I have some people saying, oh, that was the first game that I went to, and that brought back great memories. So yeah, that's kind of the purpose of my page, is to keep it, like I said, positive, celebrate the history, and give fans insights to things that just aren't, out there. Whether it's pictures of Paul Posluszny's jersey wore every game in 2005, certain footballs that were used in bowl games, different swag I've acquired over the years, and I'm not like a news feed, right? I'm not going on. I'm not going to give you a bunch of like hot takes or anything like that. I'm really here to, give people an alternative to kind of the constant news feed that's out there. It's all, positive, and all, what, as I'm kind of retelling the story from my experience. But it does make it hard to go to games. So I'd like to make it to at least one or two a year. I went back for the Michigan game, and then obviously the Blue White game, Rose Bowl. My objective is to sit behind the bench at every single game so I can take the most, candid pictures and videos, and really enjoy it from that perspective, and then share that with fans. So it's nice to be able to enjoy it yourself, and then kind of experience and share those kind of views and content with others after the game, to remember it.
Well, Penn State has such a rich history, as you've mentioned, and it's a very special place, very special school, and all the fans like you, like me, that follow it and have started something because of that passion. That's what makes it special. People that follow it so closely, people that know every player and they know all the games and all the records and the Joe Paterno and what he did and everything like that. It makes it truly special because the passion, you see it from a guy like you. Do you know Cole Kitchen by chance?
The name doesn't ring a bell off the top of my head.
He makes really good content on YouTube, like about of old games. Like he makes like clips and videos. He has like sometimes he has like full games on there. It's his content is really cool too. But uh, there's just this passion for Penn State football. I mean, I'm looking. I found the clip of you at the Kickoff Classic 2000, and then there's Paul Posluszny's jump, tackling. I thought it was Lawrence Maroney in that who he tackled, but it doesn't look like it is. But it looks like it's.
Because they had Marion Barber on the team too,
Did they?
also.
Wow.
Because they had both. Yeah, they had both those guys. So
Wow.
yeah, and like I said, I remember going to that game, Sunny sitting on the east side, and that's like one of the most vivid memories of a play as a fan. You're at a game, you're seeing, and that 2005 season being so special, with the team going 4-7 the year before, and then 3-8 the year before that. And I was at every single game. I was in college at the time, and it was, I was at a game they lost 6-4 to Iowa in that span, and Robbie Gould missed 3 kicks, and he went on to be a Hall of Fame kicker in the NFL. And it's funny because there's a lot of 49er fans out here, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Robbie Gould, he went to Penn State, he was great." And I said, "Listen, he grew and he wound up being a great NFL player, but he was like a 50-60% field goal kicker for us." And I was at a game we lost 6-4, freezing my butt off. So those stories are cool, right? Just all the players that have been successful to go on to play in the NFL, and then all opens up the opportunity to have conversations with NFL fans who have Penn Staters on their team, and those are the stories that what makes sports fun, right? Where you have conversations with fans, be like, this is where he was at one point, and this is where he is, and just kind of a cool experience. But yeah, going back to that season, I mean, that was a very, very special season, I think, for Penn State. all the hard work those recruiting classes put in to get to that point and to revitalize the program and kind of get Joe Paterno back in kind of better standing with the fan base, and it certainly led a resurgence over the next couple of years. And it's funny because 2005, 2008, both those seasons are, one final play away from playing for multiple national championships. So, margin for error is so small in college football, but to be right there in 2 out of the 4 years in a BCS era, right, where it's just 1 or 2, it wasn't like 4. It signifies an important, time in Penn State football, and that season was very important to the program.
Yeah, dude. So did you go to Penn State too, or?
No, I didn't go to Penn State. I went to school in Pennsylvania, so Saturdays, right? I mean, not much is going on Saturday mornings at most schools. Kids are recovering, doing homework, and for me, it was a short trip out to the games. So that's where I went and pretty much was able to make it to every home game from 2002, 3, 4, 5, over that period of time. So I saw it full circle, right, during that period of time. The Larry Johnson, Tony Johnson years, where they had a nice season, probably one of the most underrated teams in Penn State history, to kind of 2 rough years, and then kind of a really good 2005 season.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, you're so embroiled in the history and everything. My freshman year was when the Sandusky scandal happened, and I grew up outside of State College. Huge Penn State fan. My father worked for Paterno Library, so Penn State is my life. And I went there to try out for football. My freshman year, did a walk-on tryout, and the Sandusky scandal happened, and I experienced all that as a freshman. So to be a diehard fan going into my college years as a freshman, to come in and be excited because I've been watching my whole life, now I'm a student, and then for that to happen, it was crazy. So, that's the kind of stuff that my co-host and I, Austin, for the Mark and Austin show, that we experienced. And as diehard fans, it's like, you can't predict that type of stuff. You can't change it. It's just crazy that as fans, the stuff that sometimes we experience, and that was what I walked into as a student. So I'm glad that you didn't have to experience that, but as a fan, you certainly did. I mean,
yeah, we're all invested, right?
Yeah,
we're all invested, right? Like, and whether you're there or whether you're planning on going there the next year, I mean, you feel it the most when you're physically there and you're in it. And to your point, you're pursuing a dream or trying to even walk on, right? Or even if you're just a scout team person, I mean, that would be, a lot of fans' dream. And it's not just Penn State. I mean, your great college programs, your LSU's, your Alabamas, I mean, Texas. I mean, there's a lot of fan bases that are really invested. It means a lot to them. Being there in that period of time for someone like yourself, 18 years old, where you're pursuing your dream, and then create such a complex situation for yourself, and that's kind of one of the tragedies of it. It's just all people like yourself. There is a lot of people not involved that it winds up, affecting one way or another. And it's obviously a complicated, conversation. We could be here for 6 or 7 days, kind of unpacking it. But, it was a challenging time, for the fan base, for sure. I remember watching the announcement when I was in the apartment with my wife at the time. And, it was a tough situation. I think the one thing that I knew right away when people were like, Penn State will never come back, it'll be a decade, I'm just like, you've never been to a game. There's 120,000. Like, I went to games when they were 4 and 7. They still had 90 or 100,000 people pull out. Like,
easily.
Like, the fans are there from an administrative and legal standpoint. That's got to get worked out. But there's too many good people around Penn State for the school to go away for 10 years. I thought that was the most uneducated hot take narrative by many people in national media who really just have don't really follow college football, so it's just how can I get some clickbait. But I thought the school, all in all, it was a challenging situation. They, did their time for the 2 years. They got out of the bowl ban, and both O'Brien and Franklin did as well as they could navigating a really challenging set of circumstances for them, for the kids, for the school, for the students. All right, because we're all part of it, right? There's no game if there's no fans. There's no game if there's no coaches and players. Everyone needs to kind of come together. So, I think the whole Penn State family did as well as they could, managing through that situation, though not perfect, but unprecedented. And luckily we're here today, and the program's in pretty decent standing.
Yeah, man. So I want to ask you. I'm going back on your page. I mean, I'm way back. I'm showing some of your posts and stuff, and man, you have a lot of good stuff. This is like Penn State football fan heaven. All this stuff you have. How do you?
It's hard to get followers. Let me tell you, like all my posts are very thoughtful. They're specific to the week. They're specific to a player. I don't repost all my stuff's original from my collection, from my pictures. It is just a quick sidebar. It is a lot harder than I thought to get more followers with original content.
Yeah.
But that has not stopped me from being very diligent and thoughtful with everything I post.
No, I hear you, man. It is hard, and we talk about it, but Austin and I, we've been on YouTube for over 2 years now, and we're still not monetized on YouTube, and it's like it takes time. You slowly build it. We're almost there, but it takes time, and as good, and this is why I want to do this interview with you because. I'm gonna make shorts and people are gonna see like this interview and stuff, and then they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, like I've probably seen that guy," or "Who is this guy?" And
I had a ton of people come up to me at the Blue White game, like, "Oh, I love your content. I love that picture. Oh, is that Mike Gesicki's game worn jersey that you're wearing? Like, you get any new jerseys? What's like that? That's what makes it cool, right? Because I'm not doing this for money. I'm just doing this for fun, for other fans to enjoy, and create just experiences with other fans to interact and make the game funner and positive. But that part's been cool. I feel like to get from 0 to 1,000 is hard, but I feel like once you get over 2,000 3,000 followers, it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just keep tagging my Penn State jerseys on Instagram everywhere I can go, and keep positive in my comments and interactions, and one thing will click and it'll just keep going. So
yeah. Well, with the stuff that you post, man, like how do you? So the biggest question to ask is, how do you get this stuff? I mean, how did you you were here for the Blue White game, you met up with Kabinda, who was Trace, Dan Connor, Carl Nassib. I mean, how do you do this stuff? I mean, how do you get a hold of them?
So it's all, yeah. So like everything's thoughtful. Like I'm not like, I collect the game worn jerseys. I got my first jersey. I love jerseys growing up. So in like 96, 97, we remember going to the mall and there's Champ Sports, right? And the first Nike jersey that Penn State really put out there was this replica blue Curtis Enos and this number 14 Nike Wally Richardson at the time. And then they just sold replicas. And the following year, they sold an authentic Curtis Enos jersey with the sewn-on numbers. And as a fan and as a young kid, 6th, 7th grade, he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Like, this guy is like the man. When I got that authentic jersey, I was like, that's crazy. And then so years back, a little bit after that, kind of eBay came along, and I was looking on there, and they had these game-worn jerseys where I was like, man, these are the jerseys the players wear in the game. They're all beat up. They have other numbers, and it just kind of started from there. So I've been collecting for around 25 years. So whether it's going on eBay or auction houses or Facebook Marketplace, or the school used to run charity auctions for years, just kind of hustling just like anyone else who collects, whether it's baseball cards or autographs or antique cars or antiques, just kind of knowing where they go for sale, constantly checking them out when the schools have done auctions or sales. And just, I know every jersey style and every nuance of the jersey, and what every jersey style and almost size that every major player has worn since like 2006, 2007, all the way till today. So people will show me like this jersey, ask me what about this or that, and I'll be able to tell them like, hey, that's that player from that year based on these specifications, and these were the player. Like, there's a site, Nittany Anthology, and they have rosters and numbers from every single team dating back to the 1920s. So like, I'll be able to reference that. So I've done a lot of research, and just kind of over the years been able to identify where these go for sale, and then know who wears them, and bringing them to the player and asking them to sign it is cool. I've had some players be like, oh my god, where'd you get this, or this is an awesome memory, or even Jason Kambinda joked, he's like, oh, I may need to have this one, and I was like, well, don't worry, I actually have two of your game worn white jerseys, so if you want one, that's cool, I'll take the other. But it's fun seeing the players reaction, and kind of letting them know my passion of doing the research and making sure it's their jersey, and getting it signed, and adding it to the PC, and then sharing it with other fans to kind of enjoy it, because they that's not really available. Even you go to the All Sports Museum, there's one jersey up there. Every time I go, I'm just like, you need more jerseys here, man. Like, you got to have more than just the John Cappelletti replica. You need some history in here. So when and if my time comes, that would be something I've given a lot of thought to, kind of potentially, putting on loan a portion of my collection for other fans to enjoy.
Yeah.
But jersey is so. I mean, the blue and white jersey, right? Don't change the jersey. Basic blues, black shoes, no names, all game. Like, to me, it's so central to Penn State, that basic jersey, and that's kind of the connection I'm trying to make with both my at Penn State Jerseys handle and my collection itself, because I feel like the jersey is like the center part of football, and how teams are identified, and how fans kind of unify behind their team.
Yeah, I mean, the picture I just showed, it's Justin King, Derek Williams, Jordan Norwood, Deion Butler. I mean, that was a crazy, crazy, crazy class, crazy time. I remember when they came in, and what a difference those guys made. They, to this day, they're responsible for turning this program around into a consistent winning. I mean, they had those down years, and they haven't had, besides 2020, they haven't had a losing season since 2005, I don't think. They haven't had a losing season. So, and I don't count the COVID
So
year, but
well, we beat Michigan that year.
they did. They did.
They did. So the crazy part about that story, Mark. So those photos right there, and this just goes to like my passion of being a fan. I sent an email to the original photographer asking if he had any uncirculated photos, or the original photos, because I've started getting into collecting like important bowl tickets, game worn jerseys, footballs, helmets. And now I saw this thing about like the growing trend of original photos. So I sent the original photographer, Rainer Hosh, an email probably about a while back, saying, hey, I'm a big fan, big collector, just like you. This was an important team for me. I'm a huge collector. Do you have any like original photos that you have from the photo shoot? He's like, I have to dig in. I have to dig. I literally followed on and off with him for a year, and then he gave me a call. He's like, man, these must be really important to you. He's like, I went through my archives. I have 3 photos that I'll send to you. They were never circulated. He told me the story about when he went up to the photo shoot, and Joe Paterno was supposed to be there, and he had a scheduling conflict, and he was looking forward to meeting with him, and he was a little disappointed. And this was a pretty famous photographer. But to hear the stories about how he met the 4 players at the time, and how Joe wasn't there, and he's just like, I went through all my archives. These seem really important to you. He mailed them out to me. And those photos, there was original photos in the ESPN magazine in 2005 during the middle of that season, after they started 5-0 and beat Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I called them and thanked them for them, and they to Justin and Jordan, and said, hey, I have these photos, and they're important to me, and kind of told the story. Can I add them as collaborators? And they were very appreciative. They thought it was like super cool. They've never seen him before. And, and just building that rapport with the players, just being like, hey, like, I've come full circle. I was a huge fan. Like, I'd love to share these memories with others. And they have just gotten awesome, response. And that, to your point, is such an important year for Penn State fans, both for living it or ones that have been fans for years before that because of how hard the prior 2 seasons were. And to your point, how important they were. And even that season in 2004, they didn't give up more than 20. I mean, they were right there, needed, and they got over the top. And quite a long backstory where those photos were away for 20 years, but there's a huge fan base that I knew would have enjoyed seeing them. And I'm happy I'm able to make that happen. The players to collaborate on them, and it was, it was very appreciative of.
Yeah, man. It's with these pictures, with these teams, with these videos that you put out. I mean, you flew clear from Hawaii for the blue white game. I mean, that's some dedication, man.
But it's the fans. It's the fans. It's not just the team, Mark. It's just like standing around. Someone comes up to you. Oh man, love your page. Like I went to go on. It was like Friday. You can go to the All Sports Museum before the game can go up, and they have the view. And one of the girls working there, she's like, "Yo, I follow your page." Went up talking to her about half hour about different teams, the program, her experiences watching games with their family. Like that's the coolest part, right? Just going and interacting with, the other fans and hearing their stories and yours and vice versa. Sports is such a personal thing, and I think oftentimes we get very frustrated after whether it's a loss to Michigan or Ohio State last year. And, I just try to see the broader picture of the benefit of being a fan and connecting with other, good fans. And I mean, the wins and losses, they're fun and they're tough, but, trying to see the kind of other sides of being a fan as well.
Yeah, you're right. It is the fans, and same as you, man. The whole concept behind my podcast was we're fans. Him and Austin and I are diehard fans, and there's such a large fan base. So it's like we get on, we talk as fans. We don't talk as like commentators. We don't talk as former players, whatever. We talk as fans. We can be pretty blunt sometimes, but you're right. The Penn State football makes it so great is the fans, and I mean the whiteout. I mean I went to it was Illinois in 2011 when I was at Joe's 400th win and I was at his 409th win, and his 409th win, it was terrible weather. It was rainy. It was snowing. It was cold, and there's still like 80,000 fans there. The stadium was near full. And the weather is awful. And they weren't even like, they were pretty good at that time. Before the scandal, they were going to the Big Ten title. I mean, they lost to one team. That was the national champions, eventual national champions in Alabama. So the fans were still there. They were still showing up. I see some videos sometimes on Instagram, and they're showing the crowd. And they're like, this stadium is nuts. I'm like, that's a noon game at Penn State. Like you have no idea. Like you think your fans are crazy. You think your fans show up. Penn State fans are on another level. So,
and that year where the where everything broke later in the season after that Illinois game is funny because to your point, like they had an opportunity later in the year. All they needed to do was beat Nebraska the next to last game of the year, and they would have gone to the Big Ten championship game, and they came up short against, I guess, Taylor Martinez and Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead was a running back at the time, went on to have a very nice career in the NFL, but that was a game I'm surprised they lost. And funny, if they would have won that, even though they lost to Russell Wilson in Wisconsin the following week, it wouldn't have mattered. They would have gone to the Big Ten championship game, and that would have been, I was kind of thinking like, wow, that would have been like a really, here you have this team, you have this pending scandal, and they very well could be they were about a play away from representing the Big Ten in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. So that was a little crazy. And even the following year, the first year with O'Brien, the reality is everyone was dumping on them. If Silas read, and I think if he would have had the decision back, he would have stayed at Penn State because he would have been the focal point of that offense. That team would have would have 11-1.
Yeah.
Right. They would have beat Virginia. They lost to Ohio on kind of a fluky fumble punt return. They lost Nebraska on that controversial touchdown where J.P. Lehman crossed the goal line, and then they were up 7-0 at home versus Ohio State that year when they had Braxton Miller. So, like, even despite all that, right, they were still, they still didn't bottom out like anyone thought. And I think it's a testament to the players and the fan support. Because without the fan support, if this was another school, I don't think nearly as many of those players would have stuck around. So, like I said, it takes the fans, it takes the players, it takes the coaches to create that, environment to weather through. And like I said, I give all of us a lot of credit through that period of time for sticking through, and it's part of the reason why they're in good shape today.
Yeah, there's so many moments, man. I mean, there's so many different times, and it's so many memories. I mean, there's so much about Penn State football that you could talk about. I mean, we could be talking for like 5 hours on here about everything, but especially your stuff. You're a diehard fan. I mean, that's priceless when it comes to like content and stuff. So what can you pick like a favorite moment all time?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, for me, I'm 40. Right. So, like, I really kind of started to know what was going on in like 97, 98, I would say by 2002, kind of you're in college where you start to know really what's going on in terms of the context, and the history. I would say the 2005 game versus Ohio State at home, Tamba Hali's game-winning sack, fumble, in that game for a variety of different reasons. Number one, Tamba Hali's story is incredible in terms of how he made his way to Penn State.
Yep.
That Ohio State team may have been, outside of the 01 Miami team, one of the best teams to play at Beaver Stadium in the past 30 years. When you took a Troy Smith, Santonio Holmes, Beanie Wells, Chris Jenkins, Anthony Carpenter, A.J. Hawk, Nick Mangold at center, Anthony Gonzalez, Ted Ginn. I mean, that team was, Ashton Ubudi, who was really good at cornerback. That team was stacked. And they went on to blow out Notre Dame. And they actually had Texas beat the first game of the season. Ryan Hamby dropped the ball in the end zone. Otherwise, they would have beat Texas, who went on to win the national championship. And if they would have beat Texas in that first game of the season, Penn State would have been playing for the national championship. So I would say really that play would be, and not only that, I have Tamba Hali's jersey that he wore that game in my collection, wow, which is I just absolutely love that. And I remember sitting on the west side and him coming around, backing him, the ball coming out, Scott Paxson falling the ball, and everyone winds up on the field, and the trajectory of the program, changed, and the feeling of the program changed. And like I said, outside of 01 Miami was probably the best team to play at Beaver Stadium in the past 30 or 40 years. So to beat a team that good, with where they were the prior 2 years, and Tamba Hali's story, and how that game was played, such a gritty game, and so many great lines within that game. That play, I think, exemplifies where Penn State football, needs to be, and what we're all about. So that, I would say that play right there.
Yeah. I try to think of like best moments of all time, but there's also like 05, beat Ohio State, lose to Michigan the next week. 08, they beat Ohio State.
I was at that game
the next week. I mean, but you were at the Ohio State game?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I flew out myself. Remember the morning of? I spent the morning at one of those like chain dive bars. Buffalo, I think it was maybe Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't know what it was. It was a night game. Flew out myself, and they wind up winning. At the end, the forced fumble by
Yep.
Mark Rubin, and went on the floor. Navarro Bowman picked it up. They went on and scored a touchdown. Pat Devlin led the drive. There was a big pass interference call on, Derek Williams got pass interference call, and they wind up getting in the end zone. Evan Royster had a great game, and the only real big play, Darryl Clark had a kind of a big bomb up the seam to Derek Moy earlier in the game, and I think us fans thought they'd score a little bit more points.
Yeah.
But they wind up winning, and I left that game, and I was like, holy shit, this team, excuse me, may be playing for the national championship versus Oklahoma or Florida at the time. And I thought that, and I was hoping they'd play Oklahoma because Oklahoma was undefeated, and Florida had that one loss early in the year to Ole Miss unexpectedly, and that was the team with like Tebow Hernandez, Lewis Murphy, and Harvin. And I was like, man, they would have a tough time at them, but I think they could beat that Oklahoma team. And so that's what made the loss at Iowa so tough, because that was an Oklahoma team that I thought Penn State could have very well beaten in the Orange Bowl that year. So that was certainly a tough loss at Iowa, but that was a great win versus, Ohio State, and they also had a pretty good team that year. But yeah, it was certainly good memory at the time.
Yeah, I remember they had the Joe Paterno montage that game too, and after they lost to Iowa, man, I was crying. Like, I cried like a baby.
Oh, you have to. Yeah, you have to. I remember I was watching my mom's living room up there, and just, because again, like, all that's built up to it. You're right there. You're positioning yourself where you really didn't have anyone else left in that season. Indiana, Michigan State, I think maybe one of the teams they got past that. So you're right there. And again, everything that led up to that, the prior years, tough years, and even going back like in 2000, right? Those were a tough year. 2001 was a little tough. 2002 they came back. So it was a lot of scrapping and clawing to get up there. And yeah, no, I mean, listen, we've all gotten upset after games, or you're not that invested. And every once in a while you get those seasons, right? Whether it's 08 or 05 or 99 when they lost to Minnesota. I mean, those are all tough to accept as fans, and of course as players and coaches. I mean, they're invested as anyone else. So it's all good. It just means you care. I mean, you're in good standing.
All right, man. So where all can we find you to connect? I'm gonna.
So I'm all on Instagram. Penn State Jerseys on Instagram. Like, share, follow. If you love Penn State, go through the whole page, right? I mean, I've been posting stuff for around 2 or 3 years. Game-worn jerseys, football, candid pictures, like, you name it. Everything's there. Tickets from games, my experience meeting players. Everything is like very thoughtful. Tells the history. I have a ticket that Todd Blackett signed for me from the '83 Sugar Bowl for Penn State's first national championship. All those like really like special tokens and mementos there from the history. You go all the way down. I have a picture with Matt Rice, who's no longer with us, and Tom Bahali, both signed for me years back at their first bowl game. And just those cool stories of our players that help shape the future of our program, who's kind of currently here and who is there kind of in between. But yeah, it's all original. It's all, authentic stuff and stuff you're never really going to see out there. And it just, my way of showing appreciation for, the fan base. I'm at a lot of games. I'm typically wearing a game-worn jersey, so come up, say hi. I love meeting other fans who are enthusiastic like myself and enjoying the environment, because we all make a big investment to get there, between the travel, the parking, the tickets, your food, your tailgate, and that's part of the fun, just saying hi and interacting and sharing stories with other fans. So at Penn State Jerseys on Instagram, or on the somewhere on the east end of the stadium, typically when I go.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. It was great connecting with you. We'll have to do this again. I've seen you break down games before on your Instagram story, so you know how to break a game down too. So definitely have to do this again. But
I'd absolutely enjoy it. Yeah, come on. After games, pre-games, I like just doing the lives, and then I took it upon myself, kind of each week providing a rooting guide to fans, in terms of who you should be rooting for and how Penn State can kind of get back up into the playoff race. And that's been kind of my contribution to the fan base. But now it's a little less crowded conversation with 12 teams instead of 4.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be a little bit easier and more bearable to watch. But yeah, no, Mark, I enjoyed it, and it's always great meeting with someone who has as much passion as you. It's an awesome story about you trying out for the team, and yeah, definitely stay in touch, and we'll jump on during the season. That'll be a cool experience.
All right, man. Thanks again for coming on. We'll I'll message you soon about coming back on. I want you to meet Austin too, my co-host. So
Cool, man. Yeah, cut it up. Tell me what you want to put up, and we'll get it out there.
sounds good, man. All right.
You got. I really enjoyed it. Thanks,
Yep.
Mark.
See ya.